This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century. Welcome everybody to the 116th anniversary of Jimmie Lunceford's Life Affirmation Day. Who was Jimmie Lunceford? He was born James Melvin Lunceford, June 6, 1902, down in Fulton, Mississippi. It's recording right. Got a red dot? Okay, cool. You see me? I know there's a lot of me here. Okay, cool. So why is it so important to acknowledge this unsung black music genius? This month of June 2018 is the official Black Music Month. We celebrate black music, black musicians, black influence on American culture. Everybody know that the #1 musical choice is what? It's rap music, it's hip hop music. But all of American music is black music. You want to understand something? I just came back from Montgomery, Alabama, right? Went down there. I visited the final resting places of Rufus Payne and Hank Williams Sr. Now, who were these guys? Hank Williams Sr. is considered by many to be the king of country music. But who taught Hank Williams Sr.? None other than Rufus Payne, also known as T-Tot. That was his nickname because he used to like to drink alcohol with tea. So really, you a teetotaler, you're supposed to drink no alcohol, but because he liked alcohol with tea, they call him T-Tot. So who was T-Tot? Rufus Payne. Rufus Payne was a music prodigy, born in Lowndes County, Alabama in the 1880s, went down to New Orleans, became a master musician, could play anything you could think of. Came back to Alabama, worked as a street musician. He was hired by Hank Williams' mother, to teach her son how to play and sing the blues and jazz and things of that nature. So Rufus Payne was the only teacher that Hank Williams Sr. acknowledged during his lifetime. He said, that's my only teacher, Rufus Payne, this black man who taught me how to play. And if you listen to Hank Williams Sr., he's a master storyteller. He can't read, he couldn't read music, but the way he told stories, the way he played his guitar, his approach to singing definitely had a black influence to it. So he acknowledged it. That's Rufus Payne. So take a look. It's all online. You can look all this stuff up online. You don't have to trust me as the source. I'm just a person, a messenger. I'm just the mailman delivering the mail. And also, George Gershwin. Everybody know who George Gershwin is, right? Rhapsody in Blue and all that stuff. What people don't know is that his master teacher was a Harlem Stride pianist named Lucky Roberts from Philadelphia. Lucky Roberts taught George Gershwin how to compose and play the piano. Lucky Roberts was interesting because he made his money through real estate. He was a multimillionaire dealing in real estate through the New York City area. You can look him up as well. And also George Gershwin's childhood hero was James Reese Europe, a black man from Mobile, Alabama, who grew up in D.C. He actually formed probably one of the first important black musician unions in the country, the Clef Club Orchestra. But when he used to play up in Barry & Wilkins nightclub in Harlem, a 7-year-old George Gershwin would listen to him play outside. So you got to understand, American music is black music. Black music is American music. So that's why we celebrate that. And what's interesting about, speaking of George Gershwin, you know, the person who commissioned George Gershwin to do Rhapsody in Blue was Paul Whiteman. Let's get back to Jimmie Lunceford. What's he got to do with Jimmie Lunceford? Well, Paul Whiteman's father, Wilberforce Whiteman, was the music superintendent of the Denver schools. Jimmie Lunceford was born in Mississippi, June 6, 1902, but he grew up in Denver, Colorado, under the tutelage of Wilberforce Whiteman, who taught him how to do his instruments and music. Jimmie Lunceford was interesting because he was a music prodigy as well as a phenomenal and gifted athlete. Like, he excelled in track, boxing, baseball, basketball, you name it, but he chose music. So he came back down south to get his education down at Fisk University, where he organized his own band among his talented college classmates, Edwin Wilcox on piano, and the very talented, I can't think of his name at this moment, but it'll come to me later, alto saxophonist Willie Smith. So he finished school, came to Memphis, was hired at Manassas High School, the first, I guess, accredited high school for black people in the Memphis area. And people would say he was not hired to be the music instructor. He was hired to be anything but the gym teacher, the football, basketball, baseball coach, math, Spanish, history, anything but music teacher. But he studied social work at college, and he knew that the power of music could actually instill pride and transform people's lives, especially young black people. So he organized his own band through the school, got permission from the principal to do so, got the backing of the community to raise funds to pay for instruments and music lessons. And Jimmie Lunceford is credited by many sources to be the first person to start a jazz studies program in a formal educational setting in any place in the world. And he did it as a volunteer. This is the volunteer state. Hence, he volunteered, he stepped it up, instilled community pride. The name of the band was the Chickasaw Syncopators. They were a very popular local band here in Memphis. They actually got promotion through the radio. In 1930, he quit, teaching, took his best high school students and buddies from Fisk, Willie Smith and Edwin Wilcox, among others, and hit the road. By the time 1934 or so rolled around, he was the house band at the Cotton Club after Duke Ellington and Cab Calloway. He was also the #1 attraction at the Apollo Theater for a whole decade, because his band was more than just music. It was a whole full show. It was like, it was made for TV. It was made for social media, because these guys were known as the Train Seals. They would do dancing, comedy routines, singing. The trumpet section would throw their trumpets in the air at the same time and catch them and play where they left off at. This is what they was doing. It was an ultimate show. And sometimes they'll perform for groups as large as 40 to 50,000 dancers at a time. Now, Jimmie Lunceford is known as the king of swing, really, because according to his peers, he was the best. Glenn Miller said it best. He said, Duke Ellington is great, Count Basie is remarkable, but Jimmie Lunceford tops them both. Now, I'm not saying Duke Ellington to me is America's greatest composer. Count Basie was a hell of a performer, but to see Jimmie Lunceford in person was to truly appreciate the greatest show on earth. Was entitled for his band, because they was one of the first groups to have tailor-made suits. He actually did one of the first electric guitar recordings on record. He also had an integrated band before there was a Benny Goodman. So he did a lot of things. Not only that, Jimmie Lunceford owned and flew his own airplanes. He owned 3 airplanes in his lifetime, took flying lessons in 1939, bought his first Cessna airplane for $20,000 during the Great Depression in 1940. He used to fly his planes to gigs and everything. I can't make this up. And then also his wife, Crystal Tully Lunceford, who taught English at Booker T. Washington High School, owned and flew her own airplanes as well. He even crashed the airplane and walked away from it. So that's the insane. Why we don't know about this guy? But you know what I love about Jimmie Lunceford? They called him the Harlem Express because he was the #1 dancing band for black people during the 30s and 40s. Now, when you think about the 30s and 40s, you don't mention Jimmie Lunceford. You mention now Duke Ellington and Cab Calloway, even a Chick Webb. But Jimmie Lunceford was the #1 band of choice for African Americans because this band traveled all over the place. He was the #1 black band in West Virginia, for example. He hit the Chitlin Circuit, one of the first famous names to do the Chitlin Circuit. So, what I love about Jimmie Lunceford was the fact that regardless of how big he got, when he used to come back to Memphis to play Church Auditorium, he would sell out in a matter of minutes. But he'll always do a free concert at Manassas High School where he started at and give musician lessons, like music clinics for the young people. Right on time, too. So some of the people that was influenced by Jimmie Lunceford's philanthropy and humanitarianism includes Mr. Emerson Abel Jr., who was a phenomenal band director for many years at different schools, and also at the collegiate level, and the co-founder of the Southern Heritage Classic. Y'all didn't know that then. And also he was the Isaac Hayes High School band director, kicked him out the high school band, ended up being hired by Isaac Hayes to work at at Stax. He did the Watts Stax and did Stax. So he actually helped arrange music for Isaac Hayes. He passed away about 3 years ago. So look at Emerson Abel Jr. So he trained a lot of people just like that. They was influenced. But by him doing what he did, he planted a seed in Memphis music sound. Like, he's an important chapter of the Memphis music history here. He's the reason why so many musicians are celebrated outside of Memphis. Miles Davis, for example, wrote in his autobiography. I'll paraphrase. Y'all read Miles Davis' autobiography. I know he talked about Manassas, right? He talked about all these side men that came out of Manassas. And also early in his autobiography, he talked about his childhood music hero being Jimmie Lunceford. Like, when he was in East St. Louis growing up, he used to listen to Jimmie Lunceford on the radio broadcast live from the Cotton Club. So it's full circle. I don't know if Miles knew that Jimmie Lunceford was the first band director at that school, or the first band director for, I guess, Memphis City black schools. But that's interesting that all that came full circle. Like, when you talk about certain places like New Orleans, you talk about the whole city. But in Memphis, you talk about high schools. You know, Dr. King, the last person Dr. King spoke to was who? Dr. Ben Branch, whose teacher was a student of Jimmie Lunceford at Manassas. He came out of Douglas, but that was the last person he talked to. He wanted him to play Precious Lord. And also Dr. King's favorite singer is who? Let's take an educated guess. Like, you know, some people think Mahalia Jackson. I mean, she was great, but actually his favorite singer was a black guy from Memphis named J. Robert Bradley. J. Robert Bradley was Dr. King's favorite singer. He used to love the song Precious Lord. But J. Robert Bradley was discovered by Lucy Campbell. Y'all know who Lucy Campbell was, right? The mother of gospel music from Duck Hill, Mississippi, who taught at Manassas, not Manassas, but Booker T. Washington for a number of years. Well, a lot of people don't know about Lucy Campbell. Well, she was the national director of music for the National Baptist Convention, and she was the one that introduced the world, the national premiere of Marian Anderson, the lady who was refused, who sung at the Lincoln Memorial, the opera singer. She actually helped mentor her as well as Mahalia Jackson. So, getting back to Mr. Lunceford, he would always start music education programs throughout the country to help keep black children out of trouble. And also, he was a village builder, because what he also did was that he was looking for real estate around the country to start a retirement home for black musicians. So this guy was doing all this in the 40s, right? And unfortunately, July 12, 1947, we lost Jimmie Lunceford under mysterious circumstances. My understanding was they got into an argument up in Oregon at a restaurant in Seaside, Oregon, on the Oregon coast. They say that they didn't want to serve black people. That's a perspective on the story. So they raised hell, and the management came and said, we'll serve y'all roast beef sandwiches. We don't have hamburgers like y'all want. We serve roast beef sandwiches. So I would tell people, don't argue with the people that fix your food. I don't want to argue with people that fix, or don't eat the place where you argue with people that you got to, eat their food. So they ate the roast beef sandwiches. Right before a gig, Jimmie Lunceford was signing autographs and whatnot at a album or music store. Dropped dead at the age of 45. And people question, like, what happened? Was he poisoned? Because a lot of his band members, they got sick as well from food poisoning. They got sick as well, but they had a gig that night, so they were playing the gig not realizing that Jimmie Lunceford was already dead. He was already dead. They didn't realize that Jimmie Lunceford was dead until halfway through the show, and they became disgusted, and it was emotional distress. Now, there was 2 funerals for Mr. Lunceford, one up in Harlem. A lot of the black entertainers like Bill Bojangles Robinson, Pearl Bailey, Sammy Davis Jr. All came out for that. Then he had a second funeral in Memphis. Like 5,000 people came for that. They had a funeral procession along Crump and came here, and they buried him here. Well, people don't know a lot of times that he was friends with a Whalen. Kirk Whalen's grandfather was his best friend, or one of his best friends. He sung at his funeral. I guess it's H.D. Whalen, I believe. I don't know. It's a Whalen, right? Look it up. He sung at Jimmie Lunceford's funeral, and on the way back home, he died in a car accident. So that's the Whalen connection to the Lunceford story. So he's been buried here since July of 1947, and kind of forgotten about, actually. I mean, his influence is felt. If you listen to, like, Stan Kenton, y'all know who Stan Kenton is? He got a lot of his stuff from Jimmie Lunceford, and among other people. I mean, you listen to Because American music is black music. You know what I'm saying? All the roots of American music run through black music. I mean, the foundations of entertainment is black people being made fun of. Our pain is somebody else's gain. You know what I'm saying? So you think about, for example, Drake, who got Memphis connections, right? His daddy's from Memphis, Dennis Graham. He wore that blackface, right? And a lot of people don't know that before they call it jazz or whatever, before they call it this and that, it was called coon music. Before they call it ragtime, it was coon music. So it was normal for even a lot of black folks to dress in blackface. If you look at the foundations of American music and entertainment, you talking about Childish Gambino with the Thomas, the T.D. Rice reference, whatever, and that This Is America. But you got Stephen Foster from Pennsylvania, right in the old Louisiana. Oh, don't you come from me. I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. That's based off of our stuff, our black music, our black people stuff. So it's fascinating to do a really in-depth study. But also, I would tell people that a lot of times when this stuff happens in pop culture, these are actually learning lessons and teaching moments that we should look at. With Drake, why not bring up the conversation about Burt Williams? Y'all know who Burt Williams was, right? Y'all should look up Burt Williams. Now, I'm just telling y'all name drop. Burt Williams was an interesting guy. Burt Williams was one of the, W.C. Fields said it best. W.C. Fields, the actor and comedian, he said he was the funniest man he ever saw, but the saddest man he ever knew. Burt Williams was a light-skinned, red, freckle-faced, red-haired black man from the West Indies. And he was one of the greatest comedic geniuses of early 20th century American entertainment. Like, you look at Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, a lot of them guys got their stuff from his character called Mr. Nobody, that he dressed up. And also, he was one of the first early recording stars. Also, he was a big star on Broadway, which was hard to break up. I mean, imagine a black man back in the 1910s getting headliner status over all these great white actors and entertainers. A lot of people was not happy about that. But I think people should brought that up. Or even Beyonce, Beychella. People talking about, she's the greatest dancer. Why not bring up one of Burt Williams' business partner and creative partners, Ada Walker, who was married to his partner in crime and comedy, George Walker. Ada Walker is I would say, the mother of modern dance, really, in America. And she only lived to be 34 years old. So what I'm saying is, it's so many people who were famous during their time that's been forgotten about through the march of time. So we got to remember these people, because whenever you mention their name, they live. Whenever you're doing the work they're doing, if you are a jazz person, a musician, if you are an educator, helping people to develop themselves and reach their full potential, then you're honoring the legacy of people like Jimmie Lunceford. You might not know their name, but you're part of their tradition now. So you must honor that. So this is why this is really sacred ground here, that we honor the greats, that we study them, that we never forget them, and we honor what they try to do by being the best we can be and being an example for other people to be the best that they can be. So y'all, any questions or?
Just learned a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It's a lot of shit. I walk around, I'm trying to pass it on y'all because, you know, a lot of times people wait for the torch to be passed. Nobody gonna pass you the torch, you gotta take it. I mean, I talked to Julian Bond before he passed. He said, you know, nobody gave us anything. We had to take it. They didn't want to, you know, you don't give away power easily. You got to fight for it. Y'all saw the Black Panther movie, right? We had to, you know, T'Challa had to challenge M'Baku and, you know, all this stuff, Killmonger, for the crown. I mean, because many people want the crown, but the crown is heavy upon the head who wears it, right? So you got to understand that how can a man who was the most popular in-demand black band in all the land, who was the king of the battle bands, who everybody wanted to sound like Glenn Miller, like, you know, the Dorsey brothers, they paid Sal Oliver $5,000 a year to get that Jimmie Lunceford sound. Because Jimmie Lunceford sound is a distinctive two-step sound. And it adds to the Memphis legacy. You look at Stax, you look at 3 6 Mafia, they have a certain type of sound that everybody wants. You know, Jimmie Lunceford was a hell of a band. You talking about rappers and beef, when those battle the bands, they will fight, man. They will battling, man. Like, you talking about Count Basie band. You talking about Duke Ellington band. You talking about Glenn Miller band. Chick Ware. These cats was cutting each other. And where is that place where young musicians can go to woodshed? In Memphis. Where is that place? Think about this too. Think about it. Miles Davis once said, you want to describe jazz history, 4 words. He said, Louis Armstrong, Charlie Parker. Both of these guys got Memphis connections. Louis Armstrong's second wife, Lil Hardin Armstrong, was the piano player for King Oliver, his mentor. When he went to Chicago, he was the second trumpet. And she said one day that she didn't care for Louis. She thought he was a big country bumpkin. He had bangs and stuff. He just looked goofy. Clothes were too size, too small for him, all this stuff. But what y'all don't know about Louis Armstrong was a pimp. His first wife was a prostitute named Daisy Walker. When she used to get mad at Louis Armstrong, she threw bricks at his head. But he was a pimp. So if his wife is a hooker, he was a pimp. Okay, so when you look at, oh, Pops, I'm just a nice old pop guy. La, 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 la. Louis Armstrong, you smoke weed every day. He's I smoke weed every day. You know Nate Dogg's from Clarksdale, right? Clarksdale, Mississippi. You know Ricky Rose is from Clarksdale, right? Sam Cooke, Ike Turner. You know, Muddy Waters, John Lee Hooker. That's 90 minutes away from here. You know how special this part of the country is to produce these type of music great? And I'm just talking about Jimmie Lunceford. You know, Aretha Franklin wasn't born too far from here. 3 days from now, Johnny Ace, the late great Johnny Ace, who was the first of the Bill Streeters to make it big. In order to get Johnny Ace, you had to get Bobby Blue Bland or B.B. King as his opening act, or even Little Richard. Why all these guys in the Hall of Fame and he's not in one Hall of Fame? And he was one in the Bill Streeters. Y'all know what the Bill Streeters was, right? Okay, you got Johnny Ace. Look, you got B.B. King, Johnny Ace, Bobby Blue Bland, Roscoe Gordon, Earl Forrest, Junior Walker. I saw Bobby Blue Bland a year before he died at a historic marker unveiling at Royal Studio for Willie Mitchell. I asked him about Johnny Ace because the reason why Johnny Ace became known because Bobby Blue Bland was functionally illiterate. He couldn't read. Not couldn't just read music, couldn't read. You know what I'm saying? So when Dave Matters gave him the stuff to read, the engineer at WDIA who started Duke Records, it wasn't Don Roby. Don Roby was the first Suge Knight, but that's another story. I ain't gonna get into all that. But it was Johnny Ace that seized the moment. The dropout at Booker T. Washington High School seized that moment to sing My Song, and the rest is history. Became like the #1 singer for black people in America, and probably arguably the first rock and roll star, really, in 2 years of on the road. You know, touring. When they did one night stands, they have to drive 400 miles the next day. 400, 500 between one night stands. And even though he was 25 when he died, he was worn out. You know, you gotta think when he was warm, man, he on that road all the time. So, getting back to Louis Armstrong's wife, I'm sorry, I went all the way out. Getting back to Lil. Lil had a conversation with King Oliver. King Oliver told her, said, Lil, Lou is a better trumpet player than I am, but he don't got the confidence. He'll never leave me because he has no confidence in himself. You know how women begin, oh, I didn't care about him. I like Freddie Kepler. I like him better. He had more style. But Louis got potential. I see what I can do now. Louis, you're going to quit his band. So she put in his walk-in papers for him because he was so shy. And she helped organize the Hot 5 and Hot 7 recordings. You need to listen to those things. That's the Rosetta Stone for modern jazz. That started the foundation of everything going. Because jazz was more like group improvisation. But when that Hot 5 and Hot 7 recordings came out that she helped organize, she's a piano player on some of the most important songs in those sessions. That changed the game. It changed the game. That's a black woman from Memphis did that, who married Louis Armstrong. He married 2 more times, but in his will, he made sure that she rode in the family hearse. Oh, limousine, excuse me, when he died. And it said, you know, what's interesting about her that a couple weeks later, she was doing a tribute for Louis Armstrong outside Chicago. She died on stage in honor of Louis. And so they had a very special relationship. Charlie Parker's father is from Memphis. Bird's father is from Memphis. And he moved to Kansas City, whatever, to hook up with his Charlie Parker's mama. The rest is history. Bird is phenomenal. It's a cat that came out of Memphis. Y'all heard of Sonny Chris? Oh my God. Woo-wee. Oh, Sonny Chris was a bad man. He went to Booker T. Washington, but he finished up in Los Angeles. That brother was Bird. He didn't need no Bird. He was pre-Bird. It was a cat in Memphis named Hank O'Day, was a phenomenal alto saxophonist. You know, in Kansas City, Bird teacher was an alto saxophone named Buster Smith. You know, he was phenomenal. You listen to some of the Buster Smith stuff, you can see Bird. It's like you listen to Jay-Z, you listen to Jazzo, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Y'all know hip-hop, right? That group, he was doing all that fast rapping and stuff. You can see his influence on Charlie Parker, Buster Smith. A guy named Hank O'Day, you know Hank Crawford Jr.? His name, Hank, comes from that guy. Hank O'Day was a bad man. Hank Crawford Jr. was a bad man. He was the band director for Ray Charles for a number of years. If you listen to Kanye West Drive Slow and Tupac Shorty Wanna Be a Thug, they are sampling Hank Crawford's Wildflower. You know, Shorty Wanna Be a Thug, Drive Slow. They sampling his Wildflower. That's his saxophone on there. So, with that said, Sonny Chris was a bad man. He died, you know, young, his 50s. But listen to his music, man. Listen to the ideas in his music. It's phenomenal. It's so many horn men that come out. Memphis got a jazz reputation that's not really respected here. But around the world, people know about it. People know about it and they appreciate it. And they'll come to places like South Memphis, Soulsville, and they'll come to them hole-in-the-wall clubs in North Memphis that the news will tell you to be afraid of, to get that sound, to hear that. They'll go to a place like Clarksdale. How can a place that's 17,000 people produce Ike Turner, Sam Cooke, John Lee Hooker, Rick Ross, not Ricky Rose, you know, Rick Ross. His flow is like the Mississippi River. His flow. That's Mississippi Delta stuff. You know what I'm saying? Think about Sam Cooke. Y'all know about this song, Change Gonna Come? You know, what they say, like, I was born by the river in a little tent. Well, he was talking about Clarksdale. He said, I was born by the river, Sunflower River, in a tenement, you know, the project. But it was catchy that he did it like that, because you're thinking about, oh, he's born by, you know, it's like more like biblical. But to say, you know, I was born by Sunflower River in a tenement, that's interesting, right? So, what they said, without further ado, what time is it?
11:58.
Okay, we're going to do a special presentation. Mama heard, this is my mom right here, like my sister.
Oh, look at that. Don't put me on the spot.
Yeah, we're going to do a special presentation. We'll do the reflame. Or y'all, who want to do?
One of them do it.
Okay, well, anybody want to get the torch passed it down? It's not, it ain't gonna be, he ain't gonna hurt nothing. He dead. It's all right. You just get it here. I got it right here.
You might be the next Jimmie Lunceford.
You know, I don't know who I'm talking to. Right. Just take it, sir. Just take your time. It's a hook right there. You can do it. I believe in you. I'll play some music. All right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, you give yourself a hand. You got anything to say? You want to say anything for the record?
I appreciate the experience. That's all I got.
We love you badly, man. Thank you so much for making history. I think Dr. John Bass. You want to say anything? Because we got the Jimmie Lunceford Festival coming up, but Dr. Bass.
So you know, we'll work together and do more of this, honor the legacy of Lunceford and all the greats that you've been talking about this whole time. So thank you for what you do, Ron. You know, you single-handedly pushed this thing through, so we're looking forward to working with you and doing some great things to come. So
thank you.
Happy birthday, Jimmie.
Happy birthday, Jimmie. Thank you, so Dr. Bass. Happy birthday, Jimmie! Yeah. Hey, look good. Hey, baby, you did a great job, man.
You were scared at first. I would have had it go.
Everybody, Jimmie Lunceford Festival coming up October 21st through the 28th, I believe, a big week in October. Courtesy Dr. John Bass helping us out, Mike Curb Institute. We got a surprise for you all. Everybody talking about Wakanda and Afrofuturism. We're going to bring the Sunrise Orchestra to town, courtesy of Dr. John Bass and Mike Curb Institute. I'm so thankful and grateful for this. This is an honor. And the thing about it, we got to understand, if you can visualize it, you can manifest it. Jimmie Lunceford did that. He visualized he could be a great band leader. He believed in people, and people believe in him. And when you create an atmosphere that's positive like that, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. You could dream big, you can fail big, but you still did something. And I also want to say, you can't fail if you never stop trying, you can never fail. Even if you die in the process of doing something, the energy can't be killed. It will be transferred. I guarantee you, there are people that are watching you. You might not know they're watching you, but there are people out there watching you. Some people want to see you fail. Some people don't really care. Some people want to see you succeed. But when you do when you do the work you were meant to do, because you are sent here, you are all messengers of some sort. I don't know what your message is. You all have a God work to do. I don't say you have to go. You don't have to go to church. You don't have to believe in no Christianity or no Islam. I'm talking about you have a universal obligation not to conform to this world, but to change this world by being who you truly are. Just being yourself. And I want to tell y'all one story. I'm going to shut up. I ain't going to shut up. I'm going to keep on talking. But I'm going to let y'all go. Lester Young. Y'all know who Lester Young was, right? Billie Holiday thought so much of him, she called him, he's the president. He's the president of all the saxophonists. I love Fred. And I love you, Lady Day. You know, people don't know, Mississippi got more Grammy winners than any state in the country. Lester Young was born in Woodville, Mississippi. Another great jazz musician out of the state of Mississippi. Not just blues, not just rock, but jazz. A lot of great jazz musicians come out of Mississippi. But he had a family band. He was in a family band. His father was like Joe Jackson. But anyway, he had a unique style on tenor saxophone. It's kind of like, you look at the tenor saxophone, it's like the heavyweight boxer division of saxophones. But the way he played tenor saxophone was kind of like Mike Tyson. He hit, you know, and he's like, I sound like Mike Tyson on the tenor saxophone. Very light, man, but I'm ferocious, man. I'm ferocious. I'm a terrorist. I'll eat you up and spit you back out, man. That's just me. That's how it sounded to me, because, you know, the boss man on tenor saxophone at that time was who? Who was the boss man when the tenor saxophone? Who made the tenor saxophone the instrument in jazz? Who made that? Coleman Hawkins. You look up Coleman Hawkins, Bean. He was the first serious saxophone guy. He's the father of jazz saxophone. He used to play in Fletcher Henderson band. But when Louis Armstrong came up there, he taught people how to swing. The best trumpet player in New York City before Louis Armstrong came to New York City was a guy named Johnny Dunn from where? Memphis. He's playing for W.C. Handy. He was the top jazz trumpet player in New York City before Louis Armstrong. So when Lil Hardin Armstrong, by the way, when Louis was not playing for King Oliver in Chicago, he played at the Vendome Theater. The band was led by Erskine Tate. Where was he from? Memphis. He played for W.C. Handy. So W.C. Handy's from Florence, Alabama. But all these cats that Louis Armstrong met on his way to the top had Memphis connections. A lot of them that changed his life had Memphis connections. But anyway, he went to Fletcher Henderson band. Coleman Hawkins was there. It changed Coleman Hawkins' life. Like when he heard Louis Armstrong, it made him play differently on his instrument. But he became the #1 guy on tenor saxophone. He left the Fletcher Henderson band to go to Europe, but they were trying to look for another replacement. So Lester Young came along. The cats wasn't feeling Lester Young. He was too light on the saxophone. Like, man, we ain't feeling this. Coleman was, you gotta study. So what Fletcher Henderson's wife used to do would take him down to her basement and make him listen to Lester Young songs, records on the Victrola. And he told her, look, I dig what he's doing, but that's not me. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna be true to me. So Fletcher Henderson, to his, he had to let him go. He saw he was catching all types of grief. They was, messing around with Lester. They wouldn't let him live. They were trying to force him to play like somebody he wasn't. So Fletcher Henderson told his people, he said, I'm gonna let this guy go. But I'm gonna tell y'all this, he's gonna outplay all y'all one day. And Lester Young ended up becoming that guy. He ended up influencing a young Charlie Parker in Kansas City, Missouri, and the rest is history. But it's go on YouTube, go online. There's a interview that Lester Young did. They saw he was on the Breakfast Club. Y'all know the Breakfast Club. Like, they have all those people doing them crazy interviews. But this is right before he died. He did this interview. All these motherfuckers, MFers and bitches and all that in there. And he talks about that incident in Fletcher Henderson's band. And I want to tell y'all this, Fletcher Henderson was doing stuff in the 20s that it took to the 40s for other people to catch up with. People call Benny Goodman the king of swing, but who was his arranger? Fletcher Henderson. The stuff they were doing in the 20s, them guys, they're just not catching up to mainstream wise. But anyway, I want to thank you all for coming out, for spending your time here. Y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but y'all chose to be with me in the hot ass sun in Memphis, Tennessee, in Elmwood Cemetery on the south side of Memphis. I want to thank you all for helping me commemorate and remember this great unsung legend in music and also humanitarian and philanthropist. So if y'all have any further questions or comments.
Y'all represent all those 300-something million people. Y'all standing in the gap.
Yeah, we appreciate it. In the words of Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing.
Happy those flowers. Happy those.
Thank you.
That was so pretty.